Good day, good people. Lisa Nar here with Bliss Waist Ice Beads, Relentless Drip, and we are dropping another tutorial for you today. We're diving into the Cowrie shell hair cuffs. You love them, you have to wear them, and the cool part is you can make them yourselves. But let's start with the significance of the cowrie shell. Obviously, you know, African legends love cowrie shells. They symbolize wealth, fertility. If you notice, the shape of the shell actually symbolizes a woman's vagina. So there's so much beauty and essence. A pure goddess you are when adorned by these cowrie shells. So how do we make them? Let's go ahead and get into it. What do you need? You want to go ahead and start with your cuffs. Online, you'll see these as your dreadlock cuffs if you want to do a quick search. And you want to grab the ones with little holes in them. Of course, your cowrie shells, all natural. Your Beadalon illusion cord. Be sure to grab the 0.40 to make sure they're nice and thin and can fit through your beads. And then, of course, your bead spacers. You can find those online. Here, I'm going to use a 6mm, but 2 millimeters work quite nicely as well along this cord. So go ahead and grab your cord. The measurement, you can measure it however you like, depending on the length of the hair or the particular request. But go ahead and pull as long as you want. And what you're going to do is double it. You're going to leave one end, obviously, and the other end will be open. And grab your cuffs. So what you like to do, as I mentioned, you like to have your cuffs that have a different design with holes in them. And you can go ahead and send the string right through any hole of your desire. In this video, we're going to send it through the center. It's a large, nice hole, and it's pretty simple to work with. So as you have that in place, send it through the hole. Make sure it's nice and even on the other end. At the very top of the cuff, you're going to make a knot with both strings together. So here you want to be very careful because the string is a little stiff, but it's nice and firm. And you want to keep it as close to the cuff as possible so that your knot lands right at the very tip of your cuff. You see that there? So I'm pulling it nice and slow. If you do it too quickly, you'll place the knot in the wrong place. But if you do it nice and slow, voila, you have a nice knot in the right area. Next step, you're going to go ahead and grab your bead spacer. Here we're using a 6mm, but as I mentioned on many of the others in the photos you've seen, 2mm work great as well. You send it through both strings, as I'm doing here. And at the very top, you're going to go ahead and snap the bead spacer right onto the knot. I say snap because you want to hear a sound. And that sound lets you know that your knot is secure and inside of your bead spacer. How's that look? So now we're hiding the knot and we can go ahead and get ready to apply the cowrie shell onto the illusion cord. So if you look at your cowrie shells, you want to find some of them are different shapes. They're large, medium, small. You can have them match or you can mix it up. You'll notice on each cowrie shell, if you look at it like a lip, one side of the lip is always open. So for me, I prefer to work with the open end as I slip them into the cowrie shell. So you want to go ahead and divide the strings because the goal is to slip one end above the hole and the other will go under. So here we're slipping it right through on top, right? Slip that through and now we're going under so that we have two strings going through the cowrie shells, and go ahead and let it fall right through. So once it falls through, you can pull it through, lead it all the way up to your bead spacer, nice and tight, let it lay. Now, direction is key here because which direction the beads, the shells are facing is important here. If you're someone like me who likes everything to look almost identical, you'll notice here that the open lip is facing down. So as you are applying the shells, you kind of want to stay within that consistency to be sure that each and every time you pull the cowrie shell up to the bead spacer, your lip is either open facing down or up. whichever way you like, just make sure that it's consistent. So here, now that we have a knot on one end, because that is going to seal the deal to hold the cowrie shell, we're going to slip a bead spacer and snap it right on. You see that snap? And then we'll go ahead and do it again. So you'll grab your cowrie shell, take a look at it. You'll look at your strings here. I like to make sure that the string that's on top of the bead spacer is the one that I place over the cowrie shell. So you're gonna go ahead and make another knot right underneath, and you want to take your time with that knot. Make sure that it goes right under the cowrie shell to be sure that it stays in place. And as you're looking at your string, again, you want to take the time, stop which string lays on top, and that's typically the string that I want to go over my shell. When it's over my shell, it lays perfectly rather than the cowrie shells going in opposite directions, which you'll see in some cases if you don't take the time with this. So again, you'll put as many cowrie shells on as you like, depending on the length of the hairpiece, and you allow that to just work itself out, and you continue to make as many knots. One knot is more than enough. If you like to do two, you can, but two may also be a little too much, too thick to fit into your bead spacer. So keep that in mind as well. So now we're coming to the end, and here is where I like to prepare for the very tip. Notice I did not place a knot here because it's the very end of the hairpiece. And I'm gonna go ahead and put a bead spacer on. And with that, I like little feathers. You can use any adornments you like to add to it. Here we put it right through. And now I'm gonna take the time and slip it right back through my bead spacer, so it creates a loop, if you see that there. So now I place it down because I want it as tight as possible, and I notice when I'm holding it, it doesn't give as much leverage that I need. So when it's laying down, I can pull to my desire until I like it to be as tight to the bead spacer as possible. Then from there, you can place knots, and notice the knot now is between the cowrie shell and the bead spacer. So the goal is to make a few knots here. We'll do 4 or 5 is good enough. And you can go ahead and tie it right in between. Make sure your bead spacer is able to cover it. Feel free to do a surgeon knot in there at some point just to make sure it's nice and secure. And you can push your bead spacer up into that official knot to really seal the deal. So notice here, this cowrie shell is a little big. It happens. So what you like to do there is maybe look into the shells that have smaller lips. This way it doesn't slip off of the string that you have in place. So as we move forward here, I'm gonna go ahead and chop the remaining string, make sure everything's in place, and we are done. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, support, comment. Let us know what you think about this process, and when you have them on, get a few shots. We like to see how it works for you, how it lays, how natural you feel there. So what do you need? Your cuffs, as mentioned, your cowrie shells, you need your bead spacers and your string, and you are all set. Go ahead, shake it up, look beautiful, feel amazing, and we will be here with any questions, comments, or concerns. Again, let us know what you think. Thanks a lot.